Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be doing a bit of a disc review. I haven't done one of these in a while, if I'm honest, but I had Eric McCabe from Dynamic Disc, obviously world champion, course designer, has some disc with Dynamic like the EMAC Truth and the EMAC Judge. He obviously works pretty high up in that company and has for a long time. He coached Emporia State. You know Eric McCabe. And he actually dropped me an email kind of out of nowhere, and he was like, hey, Dynamic has some new discs coming out. Would you be interested in reviewing them on your channel? And I am always open to getting to check out new plastic and new disc and comparing them to other discs and just seeing what I think about them. Now, I wanted to put that out front as a disclaimer so you know that Eric did give me this disc for free to review, but he gave me no guidance on how to review it or what thoughts to give or any of the sort. So this is just a raw review from me on the disc and what I think about it. And so without further ado, what disc am I talking about? This is the new Dynamic Disc Heist. Now, when I drop this video, this disc will very soon be available to you to buy at your local retailers or online. And if you're going to shop online, I'd appreciate if you support my sponsor, Infinite Disc. They have a massive marketplace online, one of the best stores you can shop online. I mean, just so many discs, accessories, equipment, you name it, they've got it. Great prices, good shipping, all that jazz. So definitely check them out. They support me, and if you support me, hopefully you'll support them. So this is the Heist, and it is a 12-speed, but it's supposed to slot in the Dynamic lineup somewhere between the Trespass and the Captain is kind of what they're aiming for. So the numbers on this is 12, 5, negative 1.5, and 2. I can't remember exactly, the numbers will be down below. And so this puts it a little more flippy than the Trespass when it comes to their flight numbers, because the Trespass has the same 12 speed and 5 glide, but it's a negative 0.5 turn and a 3 fade. So meant to be a little bit more stable than what this is. And then of course the Captain is a higher speed. It's a 13 speed, but it's a 5 glide, negative 2 turn, and a 2 fade. So gonna be something more understable. Now, I have a lot of experience with the Trespass and the Captain. I used to bag those discs. I'll have some here for comparison. But I also feel like it's going to be comparable to the Sword, which has very similar flight numbers. It's 12.5, negative 0.52. So just a little more understable than the Trespass, in my opinion. So we're going to compare them and see what they fly like. All right, here's my first throw with the Heist. I'm going to try to get it pretty flat and just see how it flies. It's my first time throwing it, so we'll see how it goes. Don't really have any reference, so we'll see. A little bit of wind, but not too much, so this should be pretty true. Okay, so you can see pretty flat release. I threw it a little nose up though, so I didn't quite get the full flight there. But it flew with a little bit of turn at the beginning, but definitely did have some fade at the end. But it wasn't dramatic fade, like a spiking fade or something I would think of as like overstable. That's kind of how I would expect that disc to fly when thrown a little bit nose up. I'm definitely gonna get some more throws with the Heist, but I also want to get some throws with some other molds to kind of compare it. So I have a few Trespasses here, which are meant to be a little bit more stable than the Heist. This is a hybrid plastic one, a little bit beat in, another hybrid, and then a Lucid Moonshine. So just to kind of have a comparison point. So I kind of forced that one over a little bit even. And it had some turn because it's beat in. It's not a new disc, whereas that Heist, it's brand new. That was the first ever throw I had with it. So you can kind of see seasoned Trespass flight there. Now this would be more of like a kind of new Trespass in like a Glimmer Lucid. That one I put on a pretty decent amount of anhyzer and flexed it over. Now I'm gonna throw some Captains. These are the more understable and faster disc in the DD lineup. So you can see a lot more dramatic turn. Pretty much held turn the entire flight. Another Captain. again, Captain pretty much wanted to hold turn the entire flight. So you can see the Captain's certainly on the more understable end of the spectrum for DD. I will throw one VIP sword into the mix as well, just because similar flight numbers to the Heist in Trespass. And also a disc I'm really familiar with. I've thrown them a lot, actually. So a good amount of turn on that sword, but it did pan out at the end. But now let's get some throws in with the Heist to kind of compare it to what we've seen from the Captain, the sword, and the Trespass. So right there, not the best throw, but you saw it got some good turn still, but it fought out of it pretty nicely, but not dramatically. Not like something super overstable like, you know, a Defender would be for DD, or, you know, something like a Destroyer or your overstable 12 speed of choice. It had good turn, and it fought out of it gently and just kind of panned out and had some fade, but nothing super dramatic. Let's get some more throws though. Not gonna lie to you, I've been really struggling to get a good throw at this disc. I think it's just my own inconsistency and form issues right now, but I don't know. So we're gonna try another one here real quick, see if we can get a better demonstration of a full flight out of this thing. There we go. Now that's the full flight I've been looking for. I got that one nice and flat with a better nose angle and some good speed, and that flight really did tell me a lot about that disc on top of the other throws we've done. So let's kind of sum it all up. All right, folks, so to wrap up this video about the Heist, I feel like DD got what they wanted to out of this disc. For dynamic, this disc was meant to slot somewhere between the Trespass and the Captain in their own lineup. So when you compare it to the Trespass, whereas the Trespass has negative 0.5 turn and 3 fade, this disc has negative 1.5 turn and 2 fade. But that still bumps it above the Captain, which was negative 2 turn and 2 fade, but slightly higher speed at 13. And this disc really does basically fly exactly like you would want a disc in between the Trespass and the Captain to fly. When I was comparing it to some of my more seasoned Trespasses in the hybrid plastic, which the hybrid plastic is a little bit of a less stable plastic normally than Lucid or Lucid Ice or some of those other more stable plastics are, it flew very similar to them. But remember, this is brand new out of the box. So basically brand new out of the box of the Heist, you are getting a similar flight to Trespasses I've thrown for multiple years that have been in and out of my bag for quite some time. And so when you get a nice flat nose down release, you're gonna get a good amount of turn out of the flight, but it has the integrity to pan back out the straight, and maybe, depending on your arm speed, maybe even get a little bit of fade. And so it also kind of reminds me of a like more stable sword, because I've had some swords that are really flippy that hold turn for a while and just kind of pan out. They don't really fade out, but this disc had that fade out at the end. So to me, this disc kind of flew like a more stable version of a sword, a more beat in version of a Trespass, maybe a seasoned iBlend Emperor for my Infinite folks out there. So definitely a pretty solid disc. It's not dramatically different than the Trespass in my opinion. It's certainly dramatically more stable than the Captain, but I feel like it's pretty close to the Trespass for most arm speeds. I think the only way you're really gonna notice the difference if you have a really high arm speed. When you compare this to the Trespass, this will definitely be a little bit more flippy. You're gonna get a little bit more turn, and it's not gonna fight out as much as the Trespass might. But I feel like for higher arm speeds, Trespasses in general also are just kind of flippy discs for a lot of faster arm speeds. That's why they usually go for like a Defender or an Enforcer or a Rive if they're a trilogy guy. So for me though, I definitely noticed that it flew with a little bit more turn than a brand new Trespass as a brand new Heist. So similar to a very seasoned Trespass or a more stable sword. So definitely a good disc. I think it fits its flight numbers well within the dynamic system. It definitely slots where they say it's supposed to slot. And it definitely could be a great disc for you to use. If the Trespass is a little too stable for you, try the Heist. If the Captain is a little too flippy for you, try the Heist. I think you'll enjoy it. So good disc. Check out your local retailers. Also check out infinitedisc.com if you're shopping online. They support me. I hope you'll support them. Without further ado, signing out.